It is the CTMK countdown, and of course, another installment of the Spotlight. He just dropped an album, Parasity. I think, we've had KO on various shows because we've been with Kaya for a bit, right? We've had KO on various shows, and every time it's always a marvel to see how consistent he's maintained with the craft, how consistent he's been in the game, and we never, ever, ever miss an opportunity to put him on the spotlight. KO, how you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Hi, man. You've been a stranger, man. I was telling you that I feel like I haven't seen you in a decade.
No. You just mentioned now
Yeah.
that we are consistent. So how can you be consistent and be absent?
Hey, okay.
Ay, kgonagala.
Touche. Parasity is out.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sure that you're very excited about this project. I think about 2 Saturdays ago, we played your song with Paradise,
Yes,
with Young Stunner,
yes.
as a TikTok gem of the week. And we were like, man, how does this man still got it? What do you call this version, or at least this era of your career? What do you call it?
I think I'm probably just more settled in my role and my position as the OG now.
Yeah.
You know what I
How's that
mean?
about
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good. It's a beautiful thing aging in the space because you get to almost kind of, well, at least I've been privileged enough to sort of kind of defy the odds. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people from my class are not as present as I am, and just understanding the fact that you evolve as a person. I can't be talking about the same things I was talking about, when I was still a beginning and
Yeah.
whatnot. So, growing with the audience, imparting knowledge, and not only through the music, but also just behind the scenes when I get to huddle up with some of the younger guys and those that are receptive to just receiving some type of guidance, and me being able to just to share how they can maneuver in this space and how they can achieve similar longevity or even more.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I also just like find interest in these days, and just like those little workshops, with other guys.
But then how do you navigate? Because I do know that it is maybe sometimes, a soft spot to try and navigate you being too much in your head and thinking that your principles, your way is the right way, balancing that with allowing new information to come in. Because when you say you've been in the game, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You
Yep.
cannot,
Yeah.
because you're set in your ways.
Yeah.
You kind of know what you like, what you don't like.
Yeah.
But ever so you say, like, our industry is always evolving.
Yeah.
So you have to make room for new.
I always look at myself or music as a whole the same way I would look at an iPhone
Okay.
or a Samsung. So if there's new technology that's coming, that's hitting the market, if I don't know it myself, I need to add someone in the team that understands that bit, that can help advance the mission of
Yeah.
what we are still trying to do over here. So, because from my learnings, the thing about business as a whole, you work so hard and to get that entity or that establishment of the starting blocks, and then you achieve a certain level of success, and to keep it going, the fuel is not your brains only, is you having now the authority or the capacity to say what's happening, what's new, what are the new inventions, what are the new trends. And then the younger guys or the younger people are the ones now that you have resources to bring in to help you keep going and adapting with the times. So for me, that is what I always try to do in my music, to understand that, okay, cool, maybe now Amapiano is the new thing. How do I do that? I didn't grow up doing that. Now there's Afrobeats. How do I
always something.
integrate? You know what I mean? All these other things. But obviously at the core of it, you still want to maintain your core self.
Yeah.
You don't want to overhaul the entire system too much. But to me, that is basically just like how I keep things going.
Yeah.
And I hope other artists can also just like be more open to learning new things
Yeah.
that if I make Mhlobowami in 2025, it's not gonna hit the same because that was 12 years ago.
The environment
15
allowed
years
for
ago,
Mhlobowami
Do you
to
understand?
blossom. Yeah, definitely.
So today they need something that speaks to today.
Yeah.
So that's basically just like when I move, I'm cognizant of all those changes.
I mean, it's incredible that you say that, because literally my next question was going to be, how then do you approach the different types of music? One, maintaining your essence, your core, right? And then also being able to translate and still be relevant to your core market, because I think sometimes when we are hip and happening and there's things that are happening that are more trendier, we forget everybody else that we've come along with, and we lose ourselves in the music, So it's also just another very tender part,
Of course.
where you have to always
Absolutely.
navigate. Lose who you lose, but those that you can bring along with, especially when it comes to a fan base, is something that you need to do.
That is very important, because here's another thing with age. You come up with people and your peers, people that literally relate to you because maybe you are their age. And then the more you stick around in this space, those people grow. Now they have families. They don't go to concerts no more, and you're not a priority no more.
Absolutely.
When you put out merch and say, "Hey, I have," and then like you're speaking to a 35-year-old, sorry, Abuti,
They're
like,
like, what is that?
You know what I mean? Those
I'll
are
buy it for my
things-
son.
Exactly, right? Or I might not even buy for my son
Yeah.
because it didn't even land in my radar for me to know that you have merch. So what do you do in that case? That is how now you're not only catering to that audience that you're growing up with. You need to be cognizant of the ones that don't know you now. So in you evolving, you are picking up new fans, and you also need to respect losing some of the old ones,
Sure.
because they're thinking, this is not my thing anymore.
You sold out. That's what they say.
You know what I mean? But again, it's finding the perfect balance to still
Absolutely.
be able to appeal to those people, because the people that you grow up on you, when you do a special concert and say one night with KO, they are most likely to come out there, and those are once off type of events, right? But the newer ones, because we talk about younger people, those are the ones that are gonna be at every show every weekend.
Yeah.
And as you know, in our space, that's how artists survive.
currency.
It's not the ones. It's not the once off.
Yeah.
Activities. It's the consistent.
Yeah.
Bookings and all these other things. And brands, when they look at you, they also buy into your currency. Okay, where is he? Is he consistent? XYZ. And then that's how we keep the lights on.
Let's talk about Parasity. Tell us a bit more about this album. What sparked it? Where did we start? Some of your collabos. I know you decided to work with Young Stunner again.
Yes,
I think you guys had an amazing success with SETE, of course. You decided to work with him again. Tell us a bit more about Parasity. I love the duality, by the way. I mean, the first time I listened to Paradise, I was like, yeah, see. Snake. The duality is absolutely incredible, But yeah, let you tell that story.
Yeah, so that record, obviously, I mean, Stunner is an amazing talent, and the one thing that I really appreciate about him is the fact that he's able to adapt. He grew up outside of Amapiano, and then Amapiano became a thing, and then it became his rite of passage. But he's still able to pivot and do other things.
Yeah.
So when I saw what he did on SETE, which is not an Amapiano song, I'm like, okay, cool. I know this guy can tackle anything with ease.
For sure.
So for me, him being a choice on Paradise, it was based on same values, same principle. And he came and he delivered as like he normally does. And then outside of that, the album itself, Parasity, I am someone who is aware I'm inspired by my very own environment. I don't just pull songs out of the sky, and when you create and being mindful of the times where society's at, the pros and the cons, and you know what I mean, everything that shapes us and our mindsets in this day and age. That's where I draw the inspiration. So for me to go as far as coming up with you know going committing to a title like Parasity, right? Someone might say it might slightly be demeaning, but I'm actually when I say Parasity, I'm not just talking about one specific place. I'm talking about just where I feel our country is.
Yeah.
Right, because of just this. Unfortunately, it's just the challenges that we have come across as a society, as a country. But also, I want to take away the stench and the stigma around the word para, because we know paras as
Yeah.
those waste collectors, or people who are substance users and all those kind of things. But in actual fact, we have paras in suits, if I
Yeah.
may.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have paras who are law enforcers. You know what I mean? Because all these individuals, they end up tapping into certain energy for self-preservation over and above what we call quote unquote morally right.
Yeah.
Right? So you end up putting self-gain over above everything else. So, and then unfortunately, we see it in government. If we talk about looting and XYZ, we see it in our very own society. And all these, I could go down a rabbit hole, but I don't want to go too deep. But that's essentially where I think our country is. And simply put, I just felt like we are just so discombobulated as a society that we find ourselves in a place where everyone is just out to look out, and rightfully so. We are in a survivalist period in our in our country. Everyone is looking out for themselves and their family. That certain things end up falling on the wayside.
Yeah, and I think I mean, when I listened to the song, let's talk about Paradise specifically. I think the first thing that hit me was that we are all yearning for success in some way or the other, and whether you want to view that in para form or not, if you are out there hustling. You are no different to them, because
absolutely.
that's the way they are actually hustling for their bread. And when you say Parasity, Joburg is literally the hustle and bustle of Africa.
Absolutely.
So it made, that's why I said I love the way you play to the duality. You explaining, that obviously there are things that are a bit more unflattering about the word para, but isn't everything?
Of course.
Everything has got a part of it that is unflattering. What else can we expect? Is there a particular single that you are pushing with the drop of the album? Are there surprises? Did you get, a bit extra creative for those that have not actually had a turn to listen to the album?
Yeah, the album is this is probably one album where I had the most features on, and I did that on purpose because, people have always seen me as creatively contrived.
Yeah.
When I put out my stuff, because I always just felt like certain concepts and certain visions are best executed by the brain that produces them. Someone else might not be. I remember back in the day, there was a song called that I put out called "Son of a Gun," and I wanted to add someone in it, and then he's like, "How do you rap to this thing?"
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, "Bro, this is where you sit," And they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. And then I put it out, and then it went and it became what it
Son of
became,
a
a
Gun was
classic.
is
And then,
still a
so,
classic, yeah.
like, that's just how I've operated for so long. But I felt like I'm at a season where I'm also shining light, but also on other artists. But I also want to play and be a team player with other people that I also am a fan of.
Yeah.
So, for instance, like the focus record right now
Yeah.
out of the album is a song called Supernova,
Yeah.
featuring Caspanyo Ves. And the special ingredient around that particular song is we sampled, and it was scary.
I
We
am like,
sampled,
my heart is racing because I'm like, Supernova, Casper, sample. This
Yeah.
is about to get wild.
we sampled I Love Music by Lebo Matosa.
Sure.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's a classic.
Absolutely.
If you're gonna go down that path, you gotta do it right.
Yeah.
And from what we're picking up, I think the fans are giving us the green light.
Yeah. They say you are Supernova.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, shout outs to the man. He did an amazing job, with his verse. It's incredible. And then there's also like other collaborations on the album. I have Nalilia Piwe, obviously.
She's rising, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nalima Welele, I can't wait to see what this year has for them. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
She's on there with a song with MT and 25K, so it's a big collaboration.
Yeah.
And then I also have Black Diamond on the album on a love song. I think it's gonna be one for the lovers.
They're also rising again. I'm happy for them. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And then I also featured a gentleman from Ghana. His name is King Promise.
Okay.
He's pretty dope. There's a song called California. So
Yeah?
aspirational stuff.
So would you say this definitely pushed you out of your comfort zone? Because a kid that only plays alone with their own toys, and then the cousins come over to visit.
Yeah.
They actually feel like nuisance as they arrive because you're like, oh gosh,
Of course.
I need to share my car, I need to share my BB gun, I need to share my wada. Did you feel like this then pushed you to actually be more, I don't want to say socially open because this is business, but even more musically open, because we spoke about that earlier. That openness also creates that longevity, and it also exposes you to new markets.
I mean, I think just on the musical front, I try to spread my wings as much as possible, live elements and all these other things, and even with just like the culture of sampling and dabbling into like nostalgia. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably like the old age kicking in. There's a lot of nostalgia on the album, right?
Old age.
Right? Because when you go listen to some of the songs, it's just gonna make you feel like, ooh, this reminds me of like the early 2000s. This reminds me of like, the late 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I just felt like we are at a time where maybe a little bit of that is missing. And also just like by way of inspiration, I'm watching, I saw there's a song by Kendrick, I think it's called Hard Part 6 on this last album. I think it sampled SWV, and some of us grew up on SWV.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So I saw him doing that. I'm like, oh, I love that so much. So that's how we end up like landing on like a Lebo Matosa, because we grew up on those type of things. So if we're talking just inspo and watching the landscape and what other people are doing elsewhere, I think there is a lane there that even when you are a 19-year-old, you don't know anything about no SWV, or you don't know anything about Lebo Matosa. When you hear the record in isolation, first thing is, this is a beautiful song. Yeah. And then your big sister or your dad tells you, where the song comes from. So now there's a moment to teach and you know what I mean, and just like extend the legacy of that particular artist. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
How are you doing with TikTok? Do you play with TikTok? Are you doing a challenge? Can you come on?
I'm not gonna lie.
Do something.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, yes, we do have a little thing that's going on there that we're partaking in this hashtag paranormal activity. Obviously it lends really well with
Parasity,
where the
Paradise,
album
of course.
is at, and some very funny skits there that we've seen. So I'm not that big on TikTok myself personally, but I do sometimes when it hits me, I get in there and just do like some goofy stuff, and people actually kind of like that.
Kwame, please find me a goofy video. Yeah, I can't even see it. I can't even imagine what
Nah,
that would look like.
he'll find something. He'll find
Well, we
something.
find something. Okay. Where are we going now? We have settled into this new era of OG.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, where are we going? Where are we seeing the near future, even the older future, whether it's for you as an artist or even the music industry in South Africa?
For me personally, I think even after this album, yes, cool. The music is my undying passion. It's something that I'll always be a part
Yeah.
of. But I think strategically, I'm probably just gonna pump the brakes a little bit in like just the frequency of putting out
Release.
music,
Okay.
putting out music, because we actually, since the streaming era, the way we consume music is a bit odd, and it almost kind of pulls the rug from under the every song, or like even an album's longevity, the
Yeah.
lifespan.
Yeah.
Because album comes out this weekend, and then I'm just driving around the city and I'm listening to it, and then on Monday something happens, maybe Julia says something, now I'm distracted,
Completely.
and then by next week Friday someone else puts out an album, next he puts out an album, and then now I'm focusing on that.
Yeah.
And then that one
Yeah.
is almost kind of like in oblivion.
Cold now, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I want to do is, that's why I put together a body of work that has different nuggets and moments that I would like to see, at least affording me a 12-month lifespan on the
Right.
album,
Okay.
right? Where 3 months down the line or 6 months down the line, I put out another single from the same album.
Yeah.
Even next year, put out another single from the album, because as much, and that's wishful thinking in today's age, because an album comes just and goes naturally. But if the music is great and it's well executed and the rollout is amazing, and every song that you put out as a single is given full attention, I think it's achievable. So strategically, that's why I want to just like pump the brakes on there. But also, even in the midst of that, I'm also pivoting and doing other things. We have a brand called Kind of World, which is available at Studio 88. We just dropped our winter range just now,
Nice.
so that's doing really well. I want to excel a little bit more in that space. There are other things that we are also interested in construction and whatnot. So I also just want to give those things my attention as well.
And I think it's not even wishful thinking. So what you're talking about with putting a spotlight on each single after a different time frame. If you look at, we'll go back to TikTok, and how many songs just gain
Resurge.
real. You're
Yeah.
like, who breathed new life into the song?
Yeah,
So that resurgence, you can definitely find a way to conjure it up. I mean, it's strategic. There's probably people that know better how they do that and how they come about. But it's actually a great strategy, because we were talking with Kwame a while back about how Black Coffee did subconsciously. Subconsciously, by the time it dropped, we knew 90% of the songs, because he dropped a single, David Guetta, Mama, Mama.
Yeah.
By the time he dropped, there were like 4 new songs.
Exactly.
So the album then started feeling like a classic. I've known it forever, but no, you've only known it for 2 years.
Yeah,
So I really do hope that you do that, because it will give us an opportunity, like you say. Our attention span is short, so it will give us an opportunity to revisit and go back. I think that will be incredible. The future for South African music,
The future of South African music is pretty bright.
right?
Right. I'm gonna give you a hot take.
Okay.
Everything is all good and dandy, and people are thriving, and we're seeing artists and traveling a lot more outside of the country. Because I think, as much as yes, cool, we are all doing great locally, the big conversation will always that'll over supersede things is
The
being
global stage.
active
Yeah.
outside the country.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, with that said, I would love a future where South African music is led by the artist more than the DJs.
Aha. It is a hot take. I got you. Because you're quite right. Even the promotion of music that comes from South Africa, we're seeing it more, whether it's Black Coffee, Shimza, Kulu, whoever. They are more at the forefront of those international festivals. And then once in a while, you'll see somebody traveling. I mean, I think Boma Figizolo have done it for decades now, where they are on world stages, but maybe not even the bigger world stages that we would like to see them.
And this is not a thing that, like, I'm not saying the DJs are to
Should
blame.
not.
No. I'm saying the artists need to pull up their socks, and also us as the community, as the consumers, we also need to rally around the artists the same way we do the DJs. That's what I'm saying.
Ah, man. Oh, well, yeah. We definitely need to exalt them. I hear you fully. And that opens a can of worms in my brain, my word.
No. Because, I mean, like, think about it this way. Like, you go to Nigeria, the biggest artists there
And the singers.
are the artists.
Of course.
You go to America.
Yeah.
You go to everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the DJs are incredible. They're great because they keep the movement, growing in the culture. But the artists are the ones that are actually they are the talent.
I'm with you fully
that's
because even for DJs and producers to start tagging their music, it's because they were not known.
Yes, ma'am.
And the artist was always at the forefront. So DJ Mustard wanted to know Mustard on the beat.
Yeah,
You needed to know him.
yeah.
I know we do it the side as well, but Kiman producer ya Questa, Kiman.
Magwa.
That's right.
Yeah.
But again, something Muti. I think there's something to do with Muti there, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was purely because they would never be at the forefront.
Yeah.
But now in South Africa, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Fully.
Fully.
I never thought of that. I never thought that. Anyway, KO, this was just a quick catch up, really. I don't want to be with you here for the next 2 hours. I mean, I could be. But all the best. I think Parasity is going to be incredible. I know that Sizwe is a huge fan of yours. So let me just put it out there. So, because he's always preaching about if there's a guy that has been consistent, whether he's trending or not in this music industry, and nobody can even comes close, is KO. So continue being consistent. All the best with your other ventures. And I'm sure we'll see more of you, man.
Of course. And